cash flows are on our match, and how that would look against the timeline of a lease. You know what I mean? So that the economics would work for somebody's
I think this will be.
interest.
What
You're good at that, actually, Joe, right?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So the thing is, it seems to me that the Rye Town Park, special committee, whatever we're going to call it, should be working in parallel, obviously. And I would have thought that if I'm a private developer and looking to do a public-private partnership, the fact that you already have $1.6 million in funding from the state would be terrific, and then it would be definitely a public-private partnership, another 1.6 here, and then we would get money from the private partner if that were to occur. I guess the other way it would work is I think that the Children's Museum's raised $7-8 million, $9 million, a lot of money. I think that if we have the right project for our facility, we can raise additional money as well. So it could be a first drop in the bucket towards a fundraise and sort of kick off a fundraise. So I think there's a lot of ways to do it. But I agree with you, Mayor Pell. It's absolutely important. It's fundamentally important that we think about next steps. Absolutely, and then think. And we got to get. One thing we didn't do, I was a bit remiss. If we could all, we're trying to put together this committee that's going to determine the future of the park, sort of along the lines of the Playland Park Committee. And if each of us could look to, people from our own community that want to participate in the commission, I've had a couple of people we've spoken with to begin, but at this point we only have 3 or 4. So, Portchester, Mayor Pell, Rye City.
I'll put something on our website.
Rye Brook, Mayor Feinstein, Rye Neck, Treasurer Salvatro. If we could get, if you start talking to people, let's really make a concerted effort to try and get a list of candidates. And we'll work with the commission to draft a scope of work to give them a little bit more focus. But any other questions for Susan? Please.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is problematic. I mean, if we were to do a capital expense in the city of Rye right now, that would go against our 2% tax cap. And we just had tens of millions of dollars in flooding, and we can't get the state to help kick in money just to do a study to get to the next project. So if we were to say, all right, great, we get the $1.6 million, now we've got to match that dollar for dollar to fix the pavilion building. How is that going to be funded? We can't go to the taxpayers, which is then going to go against our tax cap. Now, what the state tells us is, no, your board could override the tax cap if you get 5 votes out of 7. So to me, it's extremely problematic. We don't even have an approved project on the books that we are fully committed that this is what it's going to cost and this is what we want to do. And the last time this happened, December of 2009, Joe was on the council and I had just become mayor. I watched how the city had no acknowledgement of the roof project. They were told it's going to cost $1.4 million, and the city had to come up with $400,000. And so what the city had to do was take from another project, because if we didn't, we would have lost the grant to get the roof project done. So,
sorry, when you said you had no acknowledgement of the project, what do you mean you had no acknowledgement of the project?
It wasn't part of the City of Rye's capital plan. We had not allocated money to fund the roof project. So overnight had to make decisions, or else...
I apologize. I want to interrupt you there, though. The previous mayor obviously was fundamentally involved in the development of the project. So if he didn't cross his T's and dot his I's in the city of Rye, that's not this commission.
No. I'm just saying structurally.
So clearly, obviously, I presume you guys will do it in a way that's consistent with your capital budgeting.
So that's what I'm saying now is we don't have this pavilion on our radar. We have it as a nice-to-have public-private partnership. But as far as, other than the $400,000, which we were told the last time, you don't have to accept it if you're not going to match it, to go to overnight to just go from 400,000 to 1.6, I can't vote on this tonight. I mean, this.
No. Sorry. So let's just be clear on what we're doing. Tonight, all we're voting on is a resolution to authorize the $400,000.
Well, to apply for it.
Apply for the resolution.
It hasn't been awarded.
So then, and if it's awarded, then we'll be presented with the conundrum. For those of you who are Jersey Shore fans, you have the situation. Mike, I call myself the conundrum. So we'd have a conundrum if we have a healthy conundrum if we got the $400,000. What I can say.
Yeah, and that's debatable. Whether we put our capital assets towards a pavilion that is a passive use versus real infrastructure improvements that solve flooding, roads. I mean, you know, it may be a priority for this commission, but as far as running a city, we've got real infrastructure problems that we can't get a dime from the state just to get a study done, let alone the federal government. And so that's
suggesting that the Joe Corvin Rye City Cultural Center. No, I'm joking. You make a very good point. And what I'm hearing you say, and I think it's fundamentally important that you say it, is that, look, in the list of capital needs priorities I've got flooding, infrastructure build. I take real priority over a pavilion at Rye City Park. Yeah, yes, it's been neglected for 50 years, but
right.
So be it.
And that's
I hear what you're saying, but and that's very fair. I think, and we need to duly take note of the fact that Rye City would not have this as a priority project, and you're making very clear that if we were to receive the $400,000, you may not be there in order to fund it. You may not have the ability to fund it,
right,
given your priorities. So that's a fair point. I understand that.
And a tax cap that the governor has passed as well. I mean, that's a real concern.
Well, look, I understand the concern. Look, my view is.
That's why what I said before, even about the capital, this is a long-range one, and the dollars are greater. But I guess I'm sensitive. That's why what I mentioned before, when we're talking about the gates or anything else, all the capital expenditures for the forthcoming year really have to be determined, because we have to do it quickly.
Yeah, so which is what we're going to do at the next.
Yeah. No, but I understand your concern, because as a priority, I don't know if I would be any different if I was funding 39.6%, knowing that the infrastructure of roads, and in your case, I understand your flood mitigation projects.
And dollars aside and priorities aside, I think you hit it on the head. It's the process. If the previous mayor didn't raise the issue, that the council, and I'm telling you, the council's not aware of this. We've got to change the process right now to have a capital meeting. Bishop, you, Scott can sit down with our finance head, lay out the capital needs, and then we start to make the case to make that happen.
Well, we just to be clear, sorry, we kicked off that process at that special morning meeting.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And we know the needs are $14 million
right.
at Rye Town Park. Now, we've obviously got to prioritize those needs. And what we need is we need to update that presentation that was really broad-based and present a priority capital expenditure needs list. And you're absolutely right, Mayor French. In terms of the discussion with Susan today, you know, it's a pleasant problem to have. If you've been given $400,000, given in quotes, you know, then we can, you know, make a determination. Look, my view is, and we're running out of time, so my view is very straightforward. We get that $400,000, we'll beg, borrow, and steal and find a way, even if it's through donations, to match it. So you know, even the 1.6, so I think Mayor Pillow is absolutely correct. You know, are we obligated to fund? The answer is no. But I think that, well, tonight I think Susan's letting us know there may be another $1.6 million available, and you're absolutely right to raise your concerns, and it's duly noted. Obviously, make sure that's in the minutes, Greg. But you know, you're being a conscientious, you know, fiduciary for the City of Rye. We recognize that. For tonight's purposes, we're looking to get approval for a resolution for the $400,000 that we've already discussed. And so I'd like to do that, and Susan's alerting to us that there may be more money coming, which is great for our October meeting, so we have a full capital. Now look, 50 cents on the dollar, you know, I would hope that I would be able to find, you know, the money to make it happen. And I'm supremely confident on my $3.5 million budget, you know, that we can do that. We can do that, and we can fund it. So, but that, you know, that's down the road. It's not for today. I just want quick comments. Bill had his hand up, and then...
Very briefly, I think this is all the more reason we need to move forward on requests for proposals to try to find who that private partner would be.
Yeah.
And Lisa Houston and I made a draft, which you all got last October of 2010, and we really need to decide who's going to actually go ahead.
Could you recirculate that draft again? And one, two, that's why we got to get this committee set up as well, so we can begin to get the RFPs out.
I just wanted to ask a quick question to maybe provide an extra level of comfort. When the grant is awarded, typically what's the timeline in terms of when the grant expires?
Good
Isn't there a several
Usually
year period?
5 years. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to
You
make
have a
sure
little
that...
Thank you, Ms. Brown. 5 years. 5 years. I'll get 5 years. I got plenty of time. We'll get the whole thing done.
Although, this is standard with the state. Now, they may, they put their own deadlines
Right.
tighter. They may, compress it to 2 years. I can't answer categorically, but you've got probably a couple of years to match.
My concern with what Bill Lawyer said is that's great that you guys have this RFP or draft. What I've been saying is you need somebody that knows the zoning code of the City of Rye to say these are the types of things that would be eligible.
That's in the proposal.
Well-
Lisa had done that back in 2002.
I know.
Such as daycare centers, things that are...
Right. That's why I prefer that the Rye City Planner or our Planning Commission review some of these documents before we go out.
All right, so what I'd like to propose is that Mr. Lawyer, Mr. Nowotnik, Mr. Pickup meet with the Rye City Planner, and we need and any support from any other municipalities to get a definitive capital budget proposal to the Commission for next month. Okay? With priorities.
And the town attorney. Remember, I emailed you about that.
With the town attorney, what?
The alienation.
Oh, well, the town attorney's here. Oh, perfect. Great. Thank you so much.
But if it just would require special legislation from Senator Susie and George Latimer.
Okay.
So,
For what?
alienation
Of what?
of the property.
What are we
In other
alienating?
words- In other words, but I think, and I'm not an attorney, so I shouldn't even say.
Well, wait, could you just come up and we talk about it for 30 seconds?
Well, it's just that, say if it was publicly...
Commission members want to know.
Okay, if it was, say, people were traipsing in and out every day of the historic bathing pavilion, and then verboten because of whatever business was in there, you'd had to be a customer of the business, then that would be when the alienation would occur.
Of course.
But the revenue stream, of course, would be benefit the public, for buying more sand or whatever,
I'm sorry, just...
from the tenant.
I'm not clear.
She's concerned that if we have an operation there that is charging a concession or anything, that we could, as we've had this issue now, which I'm going to discuss in a few minutes, that we could lose it would be alienation of parkland because we are now operating a commercial venture on the park. And to do that, obviously, to alienate parkland, you have to get permission of the state legislature and dedicate an equivalent, portion of
We're
land somewhere
talking
else.
about what commercial...
I'm not sure what you're talking
Are you
about.
talking about in the future? You mean talking
Yeah.
about in the future? We're so far away from that.
That's why I
Yeah,
said it was a non-issue.
Right.
Not to belabor this, I agree with you that while we're far away from this, though, I would suggest that this and the zoning that Mayor French referred to is really on the critical path of that RFP process.
Right.
If you think about it, we're going to put out a solicit, an invite to developers to say, hey, come, we want you to invest, we want you to build something. We're not really sure about the zoning. We're really not sure about the parkland alienation. We're really not sure about the numbers. So we have to have our ducks, and I don't mean that disparagingly towards anybody, but I think it's really, really important that we understand that, with parkland alienation, Mr. Noto hit it on the head, unless we're going to give replacement land, which we're not, then there's terms of a lease, right? The alienation is going to be the guardrails that we have to drive within that says it's going to be 5 years. And whatever spend we're looking at here, it's going to have to be an investment that is plausibly recoverable within that lease term. So all of these stars, I think, have to align before we do the RFP, but that has to be critically aligned to submitting or accepting these grants, really, because it is kind of like a carrot, but it's a lot to align. It's kind of aggressive plate here for people who do this part-time.
Okay, would you stay there, and can I get, does anybody have any objections to?
Well, I have another question, just quickly about this alienation issue, and I said it's far away. Are we talking about, I mean, we have obviously a commercial tenant right now, which is
Right.
Seaside John.
That's my next topic.
But that's a shorter-term lease. Would the alienation come into effect as far as the lease term
Well,
and the
no,
like?
it is,
I mean, I'm not asking
I would
for
say
the-
no, alienation is not, but the exemption has. The City of Rye has rescinded our exemption as
Right.
as parkland. So,
Well,
we'll talk-
could we just pick that up? in the
Okay,
next-
okay, okay,
to
fine.
answer your question,
Hold
not
on.
on the alienation.
Well, hold on,
Yes,
I'm going to have you talk about
Okay.
that right now, if I could, so I'm going to move. You open the agenda. Susan, does anybody have
Sorry.
objections to the resolution to allow Susan to proceed for the $400,000 that we had approved? Remember, Susan's worked on a success fee basis. We approved that last meeting. Does anybody, can I get a motion to approve?
Only a question, you're referred to as both the Park Commission president as well as a supervisor of the town. Does the Town of Rye board have to vote on this as well, since you're mentioned here as the Town of Rye supervisor?
We can amend that letter.
Okay. He's acting on behalf of the town of, the Rye Town Park Commission.
Yeah.
If you can amend it, I would make the motion.
Beautiful. Can
Okay.
I get a proposal to approve the letter as amended?
So moved.
Second?
And then you have the resolution for the state.
This is the
I've got one resolution.
Wait.
Two resolutions?
No, there's
Voting
one
on the
resolution here.
resolution,
Yeah.
application 2259.
Yeah.
Right.
Right,
And we're crossing out the words "and supervisor of the town of Rye."
right.
Is that what's needed, Susan?
Yeah, and then it has to go to the clerk.
Yeah, we'll get you the
Thank you very much.
stamp.
Wonderful. Thank you, Susan.
Full vote, yeah.
Give me that 1.6.
Did we get a second?
I'll figure out how to do it later. Thank you.
I have a motion by French. Who was the second?
A motion by myself, seconded by
Oh,
Mayor Frank.
I apologize. I'm sorry. Okay.
Somebody's paying attention.
Okay. Mr. Noto, look, again, as usual, we're down to...
We can take a vote on it?
You want to
Oh,
call
I
a
thought we
vote?
could...
Yeah, you need to vote.
No, we had a first and a second.
Oh, no, second, okay.
Commissioner Sack?
Yes.
Commissioner Salanitro?
Yes.
Commissioner Feinstein?
Yes.
Commissioner Pillow?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Carvin?
Yes.
6-0, baby.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank
Okay, Mr. Noto, let's talk about this Rye Town Park certiorari case.
Yes, I'll be brief, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. As the board is aware, in July, the City of Rye assessor had rescinded the parkland tax exemption at the park because of the Seaside Johnny's restaurant, which operates at the park, at Rye Town Park. We brought an appeal to the Board of Assessment Review of the City of Rye in July. We had a hearing, and they did this, by the way, also with the Tiki Bar in Playland. And so the county as well filed an appeal with the BAR at the City of Rye. And pursuant to state law, they had to file their decision on or before September 15th of 2011. And we did receive yesterday in the mail their decision, which was they denied our request for the exemption due to the private commercial use as a standalone bar restaurant. They did, however, reduce our assessed value from $403,000 to $184,000.
Can you repeat that from the reduced?
They had us at 403, and we
Right.
reduced us to our final AV is 184.
Why?
Well, that affects our county
Yeah.
sewer tax.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
why? They don't give reasons in
Is
these
that
letters.
full value, or is that the equalization?
That's with the equalization in the City of Rye. They don't have full value.
So it's multiple.
Well,
The actual
it
value
is
as far as
based on the equalization rate. That's the final assessed value.
That's the extended math. Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you. So to add to your budget woes, you will this year have to pay the City of Rye, I calculate, I think about $22,000 in city taxes for which I don't believe you budgeted. And our only options are, A, do nothing and continue to pay the tax, or B, file an Article 7 certiorari, a topic near and dear to the supervisor's heart, in which case we, and I would say me, both the Rye Town Board and the Park Commission would be plaintiffs in an action against the City of Rye to have the exemption restored. And this would be filed in the Supreme Court like every other certiorari. Has to be filed within 30 days of September 15th, and I would ask a resolution permitting me to do so. And I will also have the Rye Town Board do so as well tonight.
Do we have a sense of what it would cost to litigate this?
Nothing. I'm doing it for free because
Well,
I
you're
get
doing it.
paid by the town. Unless you want to pay me extra, which I
No.
would be happy to negotiate with you, Supervisor, but I know the answer would be no anyway. So
No cost.
your town attorney, your friendly town attorney. Now, I won't be paying for the appraisal and any other expenses associated with it, such as the filing fees and
But
things.
the issue isn't the value of the property.
No, it's not. But
The
there
issue
is.
what is? I don't understand.
Well,
the
quite frankly, it's a very straightforward legal issue, which I suspect we would brief, which we actually already briefed in front of the BAR, which is the purpose of the restaurant, does it qualify as a public purpose? As the courts have determined in other cases, like, for example, at the airport, they've had hangar cases and things of that nature. So, it's a fact-based determination. Does the restaurant, is it part of the park use? Does it enhance the park use? We have, articulated and advocated that it does. City VAR disagreed. So really, it's going to come down to the facts and how does the restaurant fit into the park use. And if the judge agrees with us, we get our exemption. If he doesn't, we don't.
If you don't do anything, I mean, don't you run a risk here? The fact that you have a body who's saying the fact or assuming that this is not being used for valid park purposes. So I think that you are between a rock and a hard place, and I think that we have no choice but to commence the proceeding.
Mayor Pillay, please.
What type of obligation does our tenant have in terms of net lease or...
Another excellent question. The answer is none.
Next,
The
please.
license agreement, which was signed, maybe 10, 12 years ago, did not contemplate this. In fairness to both parties, it simply was not contemplated because it was parkland and it was exempt. So there is no provision in the license agreement for them to pay this. Not so much, and as you know, it's the same tenant with the Tiki Bar. There is a provision in that lease which was only, I think, agreed upon 2 years ago. They put stuff in there,
Sure, whatever blows away, he's
But
gonna
I think the
take it.
county will also be challenging this. They have to get Board of Legislators' approval, but I'm pretty sure, I spoke to the county attorney yesterday, and I think they're going to seek permission to file an
How
appeal as
soon do you
well.
think we get this in front of the court?
Well, that's a good question. As you know, these cases don't move quickly, so as soon as I can get it in front of a judge, I will, but the cert part is very backed up. This could take, in excess of a year. It could take 2 years to get a note of issue filed.
What happens to the money in the meantime? We put in escrow?
No, you have to pay the city, and if you prevail, you get a refund.
I'm sorry. How can some independent entity all of a sudden wake up one morning and say you got to pay more money?
Well, that's what the city did, and like any other certiorari, when people challenge our
Can
search,
the Rye City Council overturn this?
the Rye City Council can discuss with the assessor, as the assessor, how she made her determination and whether or not they agree with it. But that would have to be initiated by the city council.
They thought we directed her.
I can't say that. And the mayor and a councilman are sitting right here, so they would know better than I. Okay.
Why can't the Rye City Council say, we think this is detrimental to the interests of the city of Rye? It makes absolutely no sense to steal money from Rye Town Park. Why can't the Rye City Council take this issue up?
Well, they can take it up. The form of government in the city of Rye is they have a city manager form of government, and technically the assessor works for the city manager. The city council sets policy. So from the standpoint of a policy question, the city council can certainly take this issue up, and they can pass resolutions if they choose, directing the assessor, to change this or to reevaluate it. So far, the city council hasn't done that, and it's
No, I understand.
not my place to ask
Look,
them.
I think that, my understanding of what's happened is the city assessor made this determination, and,
Yes.
I can appreciate that the Rye City Council didn't get involved. Now, the Board of Assessment of the Review of the Rye City has substantiated this thievery. I would have thought that it's incumbent on the Rye City Council to say, look, this is at a minimum, go on the record and say this is counter to a good policy for Rye Town Park that that we've been working so hard to reduce costs, reduce expenditures, reduce the budget. It's a overreach
As an aside, the Wainwright House had also lost their exemption, but the BAR restored it.
Well, why did they restore that?
I-
Do you think it's because it's in the City of Rye boundaries?
I don't. These letters you get, they don't give you a reason. They don't give you the whole.
So the board, 6 guys on this board of, I don't. It's just a sort of, it's incredulous
Just like
to
our
me
Board of Assessment.
that an assessor, with zero input from the City of Rye Council, can simply say, she can make up anything she wants, and if she got 6 people in the Board of Assessment Review, they can make up anything. I mean, it's extraordinary to me.
Well, she can't make it up. She does have a process she has to go through. She did explain at the meeting why she came to this conclusion, and she explained that in her opinion, because Seaside Johnny's is commercial and they're making money, et cetera, that they should be paying.
Why not go back 12 years? Why not go back 12 years?
Because they can only go back 3.
She can't go back 12 years, so she only did it for this year. So we have no choice. If we prevail in our Article 7, then the city has to issue a refund, as you know, the town and the villages and the school districts do when certiораries are settled in this town and refunds are called for. A refund is issued with interest to the
9% penalty rate, right?
Yeah. No. It's a 9% interest.
Right.
So if we're successful, we'd get the money back with interest. If not, we have to continue to pay the taxes. But you don't get to you can't put it in escrow. You have to pay it, and the city has no choice but to collect it.
Just like our residents. Mr. Supervisor?
Please, yeah.
Real quick, 2 observations / rhetorical questions. One, if we don't prevail, if we lose, the city, it's not in our budget, so it'd probably have to, 39.2% the City of Rye would be paying themselves, right?
Correct.
So that's something just to keep in the back of the mind, and I'm not meaning to
No, I think
be
that's operating,
disrespectful
so
to
that's
anybody.
probably like 48%.
But the
Right, it's part of the operating expense.
Okay, so the question, though, is, and it all relates to the 2% tax cap for all of us, probably. The question is, when is this lease up? And timing is everything in life.
2000.
And if
But
this lease were such
This is
a net list, you know what I mean? You'd be saving
2016.
2016.
And quite frankly, so the $22,000, $11,000 you're paying for it anyway, $10,500. Half you're paying, guys, half anyway. This is insanity. This is an assessor gone mad. I mean,
Maybe wait a couple
I'm going to finish the point. I'm sorry. I'm going to finish the point, and then you can disagree. Why would you take up court time, legal time? I presume the Rye City's going to have to defend this, correct?
Yes.
Are they going to get a lawyer?
Yes.
Well, I mean, so your costs at Rye City are going to exceed the $11,000 that, in my view, you're stealing from the town of Rye. So it's insanity, fiscal insanity, and I'd encourage my Rye City friends to make that clear to the Rye City Council. But please, Commissioner Sackler.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Carvin. And I certainly understand that you disagree with the decision that the Rye City Assessor made and with the determination that the Board of Assessment Review made. But I would have to take strong exception to the colorful language that you're using. That I at first thought you were using tongue-in-cheek when you said steal and thievery, but then when I heard you impugn the motives of the BAR because they made one decision on one property and not on another, I have to say something, and I'm certainly not going to debate the merits of the decisions with you right now, especially when your attorney is suggesting that litigation is the next step. And if that happens, maybe we'll have something to talk about. At the time that this commission determined to grieve the decision of the city assessor back during the summer, was it, Paul?
Yeah.
I said at the time I certainly would never stand in the way of a property owner from grieving an assessment, and I stepped out of the way and I let you move forward. If that's the position that you want to continue to take, I guess we'll litigate it. It sounds like Mr. Noto's fees are covered already. So, if you want to do that, I would continue to not stand in your way. But generally speaking, I would stand up for the city assessor and state that she's a consummate professional and has been working at this job for many, many years, and in my experience knows what she's doing. And I would say the same thing about our BAR. Obviously reasonable minds may differ, and that's clearly what has happened here, but I would never impugn the motives or the professionalism of this commission or this attorney. And I think we can all agree that, we should keep the invective out of it. And, if it is a fact-based thing that a judge is going to decide, then I imagine, that the judge will make the right decision. And I'm willing to live with whatever the judge decides. Or if there are settlement discussions that take place after a lawsuit is filed, I'd certainly be willing to entertain that with the advice of my own counsel. Certainly we all wear two hats here. You're the supervisor of the town of Rye.